The inevitable is happening. The thing we as black people have known all along about this administration in power, how our rights were being infringed on, how the country would spiral, how women's bodies would be controlled, how education would be gutted, and how the rich would get richer and the poor would get poorer. Because the only difference between this...
You and I and everyone else who supported him, you wrote speeches for him, I campaigned for him, we're implicated in this for sure. But the question does present itself immediately, like, what is this? Was this always the plan? You don't want to be a conspiracy nut, but like, clearly there were signs of low character. We knew that.
There are aspects of his personality which are obviously not good and that we've mostly just chosen to overlook. You know, he's not a moral man. He's obviously not the greatest husband in the world. You know, cost of American lives isn't the motivator. It's just that Trump has moved on to other things because he has the attention span of a gnat.
And
what American is this helping? Besides the industrial war complex, I just don't know. I don't understand. So yeah, that's what our president's up to, and it's fucking baffling.
Isn't you had a change in morality or a different point of view. You're just now impacted. And what a spineless way to live. You say to yourself, I'm okay if marginalized groups are impacted as long as my positioning as a white person is unchanged in this country. We knew. So when you ask,
what does the black community see that we don't, that's allowing them to totally let go?
We saw you. We saw our parents and grandparents fight for their rights as humans. We saw how at every turn, the only thing people in America, white American men, and those white American women who feed into racism and the patriarchy want is capitalistic system where black people don't benefit, women stay in their place, the masses remain uneducated, and America stays white. So yes, we knew. MAGA voters are speaking out against Trump. Farmers are watching crops rot because of tariffs, federal workers losing jobs they thought were safe, veterans seeing benefits get cut. But none of this is shocking because the policy didn't change. Their proximity to it did. This pattern is as old as oppression itself. If we go back to the Reconstruction era after the Civil War, poor white and black farmers were in the same economic boats, exploited by the same landowners, crushed by the same debt systems. They actually started organizing together. The populist movement was building real cross-racial working class power, but the planter class got panicked. They did not want poor people joining up against wealthy people. So they did what ruling classes always do. They offered poor white farmers something black farmers couldn't have: social status, the feeling of being above somebody. Jim Crow wasn't just about hate. It was a political strategy to break solidarity before it became a threat, and it worked. Poor white Southerners voted against their own economic interests for generations, even until today, because they were giving the psychological wage of whiteness instead of actual wages. Fast forward to the New Deal, FDR's programs of Social Security, labor protections, the right to organize were genuinely transformative. But to get Southern Democrats on board, they excluded the jobs black people were most likely to hold. Domestic workers, agricultural laborers, left out by design. White workers built generational wealth on those programs. Black workers were locked out altogether. But when someone says the government used to work for regular people, it did. Just not all of them, and just not all of us. And these are the same sentiments of MAGA today. Ida B. Wells warned us. She said, a country willing to use terror against black people had already proven it would use terror as a tool, period. The weapon doesn't retire once it's done with one group. MLK said in a Birmingham jail, he wasn't just frustrated with the segregationists, he was frustrated with the white moderates who thought they could stay comfortable while injustice ran its course. Injustice doesn't run its course. Frederick Douglass understood that freedom, if it wasn't protected for everyone, was just a loan. One thing we know about loans is that loans get called in. But in this country, if we have built and defended the political infrastructure to protect minority rights when black communities were screaming that these systems were dangerous, everyone would have protections right now and rights today. Now we're watching tariffs gut the same farming communities that cheered trade wars aimed at protecting them. Federal jobs disappearing from the same towns that voted to shrink government because the cuts were supposed to hit someone else. The tools they're using on immigrants, on black voters, and now the white working class Americans, same tools are now pointed somewhere new. You cannot outsource your freedom to someone else's oppression and expect to stay free. The only way any of us stay protected is if the system is built to protect all of us. America is in a very precarious place. And if we just believe black people, if we just granted black people equal protections and rights and freedoms under the law without the need for us to be in this centuries-long fight, then maybe, just maybe, we all would have adequate protections and not fall into a despot running our country dry while enriching his helm of billionaires. You ask black people, what did we see that you didn't see? We saw our story and our history. Stay black. Stay blessed.
White people are trying to figure out how and why black people have collectively withdrawn from this country, essentially.
So it's clear that we are watching the fall of the American empire in real time. And there is a stark difference in the way that the white community is responding and how the black community is responding. The black community en masse has completely withdrawn.
And it's clear to me that a lot of y'all have never been in a toxic relationship. And unfortunately, I have. But let me tell you how this goes. In a toxic relationship, you usually have one person who isn't shit, right? It's usually the man. And the man is, emotionally abusive. He is a cheater. He's a liar. He's a manipulator. He gaslights. He's narcissistic. But he also has a lot of potential, right? He also can be very loving. He also promises things to come in the future, right? He also can be very exciting at times. And those things keep the woman around. But when things are bad, shit goes up, right? Windows get broken, cars get scratched up, TVs get shattered, broken glass everywhere. Just a lot of chaos in these situations at times, right? And this goes on. These ebbs and flows, these ups and downs go on for years sometimes. But at some point, the abused party in his relationship just completely wakes up and decides that he or she is over it, right? And when that happens, there is no blow up. There is no broken windows. There is no shattered windshields. There is no scratched up cars. There's just calm, right? There's folded clothes. There's neatly packed possessions. And that person decides to go on about their business. And that's where black people are with this country at this point, right? Like, we're just sick of y'all shit. And we're not going to protest. We're not rioting. We're not doing none of that shit. You know what I mean? Most of us are just simply withdrawing, going on about our business and surviving like we know how to, like we have always done since before this country was founded.